So, without any delay, let's start Fireworks of My Heart. At the beginning of this drama, we are shown the fire rescue department, where everyone is having a great time and enjoying a meal without any tension, as no fire alarms have gone off yet. They aren't expecting any alarms either. At that moment, our female lead, whose name is Ek-soo-kin, is introduced. She's busy in surgery. Just then, a fire alarm starts ringing, and our hero, named Song-yan, leaves his meal with friends to quickly rush for the rescue. They head to the accident point without delay. Meanwhile, Ek-soo-kin is shown again, having just finished her surgery and enjoying her now cold meal. A little later, Song-yan arrives at her office, brought there by his colleagues. He had a toothache and wanted to see a doctor. Looking at them, it seems like they know each other very well. But before Ek-soo-kin could check on him, Song-yan gets up from his seat and walks away. He was in pain. Still, he didn't want to get his treatment from her. Now, Dr. Ek-soo-kin remembers something, so she follows him outside. But Song-yan drives away with his 5 truck, ignoring her. After returning, Song-yan was sitting very sad and looking at a lighter. He was remembering one of his old missions. Along with that, memories of his high school also start coming to him, where we see Dr. Ek-soo-kin, who looked very young. That's when the boys from the rescue team make jokes, saying that our instructor neither has a girlfriend nor does it seem like he will ever get married, because their instructor is very strict. And then, in the midst of all this, their instructor Soo-jun arrives, and he slaps them back to their senses. After this, Sun-jun arrives at the garage while searching for a Song. There, he finds Song, who is sitting in distress due to a toothache. So, he gives him medicine, and at this point, seeing them, it seems to us that Soo-jun and Song-yan are very good friends. Suo knew Song very well. He had understood that something had bothered Song a lot this time, because he was quite upset. Then, in the next scene, we are shown the next day, where a newcomer, whose name is Zing, is protesting, because their training is even harder than the training of a special force. He believes it's impossible, and they don't need such training. Right then, Song appears and completes the mission within 20 seconds. This was a record for their department, something that no one had achieved before. But Song did. His speed was extremely fast. The way he was climbing the building. Now, after seeing him, Zhang feels quite embarrassed, because Song-yan had told him that it's a training ground, not a playground. Actually, firefighters always have to rescue people fighting against time to escape death. That's why every second is important for them. Meanwhile, Dr. Ik-soo also receives a call from another doctor. He informs Ek-soo that a building nearby is on fire. He'll have to go there on a mission. Now, Song-yan is also heading into the building with his team for the rescue. But there's a car stopped in their way, parked in the wrong place, blocking their path. Before waiting for the owner of the car, they move the sports car aside, causing significant damage. This clears the way for the fire truck. Here, Song-yan and Ek-soo-kin confront each other. As they were entering the building, Ek-soo-kin, an emergency doctor, starts following Song. He is taken aback by her presence, but later focuses on his work and doesn't say anything to her. Sue, on the other hand, stands sadly and keeps looking at him. The Song's team was very professional. They reach inside that building within a few seconds. While they were working so hard, the owner of that building comes and starts scolding them, saying that they are not working properly. They have to endure the anger of people along with their work. Just then, a blast sound comes from inside the building. Isu, standing outside, starts to worry a lot about Song as he was still inside the building. In the meantime, those people realize that there are 50 to 60 cylinders in this building. Due to the presence of gas tanks, there are repeated explosions there. And this is a very dangerous situation, in which Song-yan manages to save lives many times. Song finds himself in danger multiple times. But he somehow survives. He is only concerned about the people trapped inside. Then he manages to rescue a girl and bring her outside. Now he had completed half of the task, and the remaining half was up to Dr. X, who tries to save the girl's life. Song was still inside. The officer repeatedly orders Song to come out of the building because there are going to be explosions. But from inside, he hears the crying of a child, and he goes back in to rescue the child. Right then, a blast occurs nearby. After that, Eksu becomes extremely worried. But when Song brings the child out safely, and a smile appears on Eksu's face, when she sees that Song is completely fine and is coming out with the child. Song used to carry out missions without caring for his life, and even disobeyed his senior's orders. That's why Soo-jun gets very angry with Song, but they were good friends. Just then, the owner of the sports car that the firefighters team had moved to the side approaches from behind. He starts fighting with Song because his sports car got damaged. He tells them, "Do you know how wealthy I am and what I can do to you people?" Threatening them, and he walks away. However, Song Yan isn't bothered by his threats. Instead, he calmly tells him his full name and department's address before he leaves. Yoo-soo finds this act quite impressive and keeps staring at him. Meanwhile, Eksu also attempts to talk to Song once, but he continues to ignore her. Then, a flashback is shown to us here, where we come to know that actually Eksu and Song both are from the same high school. When it was Eksu's first day at school, that day itself, Eksu became very fond of Song, and Song, after leaving his class, would keep looking at Xu through the window repeatedly, to the extent that he got himself transferred to Eksu's section, and he became his desk partner as well. Song would try to talk to her repeatedly. But Yus was a very quiet girl. She wouldn't respond properly to him. Now the same Song Yan who liked her so much. How did he become so quiet and sad? We see that Soo-jun had noticed that something was bothering Song. He had also seen Song standing with Dr. Iksu-kin. He asks Song if she's his ex-girlfriend and if he can't forget about her. However, Song's response is that he had actually forgotten about her a long time ago. Soo-jun hadn't mentioned any specific girl. He was just making a wild guess. Soo then tells him that it's evident he likes her, as he's thinking about her. Soo tells him that it's a good thing, and encourages him to date someone else while he plans to get married soon. Soo wanted to have more conversations with Song, but Song gets up and leaves. At the same time, we are shown Dr. Eksu, who is in her luxury apartment and has an open box containing many memories from her high school days. In reality, Eksu always avoided Song and all the other people. However, Song always tried to get close to her. Once, he had initiated friendship by using the excuse of testing candies. She had kept the same box of candies that Song had gifted her, carefully preserving it all this time. Xu was a shy type of girl, and often girls bothered her by pursuing her. But now, Song acts as her bodyguard, following her around to ensure her safety. This is the reason why no one can get close to her anymore. Soo-kin had even carefully preserved Song's jacket and was reminiscing about everything. The next day, as soon as Song goes to his senior officer, the officer says, "I have received many complaints about you. You didn't listen to your team leader, put your life in danger, and yesterday you also damaged a sports car." Song tries to deflect these accusations, but his boss overreacts. Meanwhile, his senior stands up and takes his side, explaining the situation. Song had a lot of attitude, saying that if they were so angry with him, they could transfer him somewhere else. He didn't care, but his boss gets even angrier and tells him to submit a report, and that too, 3,000 words long. We also learn that Song's senior is supportive of him and always saves him in critical situations. However, when she tried to talk to Song outside, he doesn't pay attention and leaves. Then, the scene shifts to a hospital. The doctors at the hospital were gossiping among themselves. They said, Eksu-kin comes from a prestigious family, which is why she got promoted so quickly. That's also why she's now part of the research team. Seeing Exu's rapid progress in such a short time made many people jealous of her. Actually, she comes from a wealthy family. Her family's business is the main group. Because of this, people avoid her and no one wants to be friends with her due to the status difference. Exu Kin used to have a car come to pick her up from there every day, and even today, Chen had come to pick her up. He had bought another expensive car for her, which Exu Quinn really likes. Now, as she was leaving, she encountered a roadblock on the way. She learns that there's been an accident, and the ambulance hasn't arrived yet. She quickly parks her car and rushes to the accident site to save lives, as it's her job and passion. However, as soon as she reaches there, she sees the car severely smashed and a rescue operation in progress. Our hero, Song Yan, is working to rescue people from the car. When she sees him, she freezes in place. Just then, she realizes the ambulance has arrived and leaves. But Song had also noticed her leaving. He just silently watches her go with a gaze filled with emotion. After completing their mission, Song and his team were sitting when suddenly their instructor arrived. Su had brought soup for Song because he knew that Song had a toothache and he would drink it. At that moment, Su receives a call, which he secretly listens to on the side. And then we come to know that either he wants to change his profession or he's trying to get transferred from here to somewhere else. Actually, he was dealing with all of this related to his personal life. At this point, Song also becomes suspicious. He asks Suo, "Can only you recognize that something is bothering me? I'm also noticing that you've been upset for a few days." However, Suo still doesn't share anything with him, just like how Song hadn't done before. Then, the very next day, 2 teams are formed in the hospital for the Red Zone. 2 team leaders are appointed, with one team led by Dr. Iksukin. The other doctor is a regular one, but quite senior there. Now, all the people happily join the team of that senior doctor. However, everyone keeps their distance from Exukin, so nobody wants to join her team. But due to their profession, they have to join Exukin's team. However, those people didn't seem happy. After that, the scene shifts to the rescue office where Song was training the firefighters. All the trainees there are practicing putting on their apparatus quickly. And in the midst of this, one trainee struggles with wearing their apparatus correctly. His apparatus falls off in a single jerk. Here, Song tells him that the breathing apparatus is often taken away by those people who are victims there, as it's a battle between life and death. If you don't wear the apparatus correctly, consider it as you're playing with your own life. He continues their training for quite a while, and afterward, he shows them an overview of the city. He tells them, if you came into this profession thinking you'll get publicity or earn respect, remember that we receive a lot of complaints. I've received plenty myself because our field is aggressive. We can't keep everyone happy. Actually, their profession was very difficult, but the happiness we get from saving others' lives can't be found in any other way. Exukin returned to the Yusa after a long time, and now she walks along the path of her old school, where memories from the past start coming back to her. When they had become very good friends, there was a time when Song wrote something on the wall. He was supposed to write Sun, but he accidentally wrote Sun instead. Zhu Quinn pointed out this mistake, and they both had a good laugh about it. Today, Exukin had gone to see the same place where she had many memories with Song. Then she goes to Song's house in the same area. Song's house was quite old, giving the impression that Song belonged to a modest family. At the door, his sister Miao opens it, and upon seeing Exukin, she becomes angry and starts showing her frustration. Su Quinn asks her about Song, and Miao reminds her why she has come to inquire about him. Miao tells Exukin that she remembers what Exukin did to Song. She tells Exukin not to even think about coming back into her brother's life. He's getting married next year and is very happy in his life. Immediately after this, their aunt arrives, and with the door closing in her face, she says, Song doesn't live here anymore. Upon going inside, Auntie starts feeling a bit guilty that she behaved quite poorly with Exukin. But Miao doesn't find this behavior wrong. She says that what they did to Exukin was much worse than what Zhu Quinn did to her brother. And after coming back from abroad, she might have realized it now, that no one can love her like my brother. Then Song's mom says, I have a feeling that Song still hasn't forgotten Exukin. Actually, Song's mom arranged blind dates for him many times, but Song never agreed to go. Miao gets very angry and says, "No matter what happens now, I won't let this girl come back into my brother's life." Meanwhile, when Zhu Qin was at work, a patient comes to her with a minor injury from burning. Su quickly provides treatment for her, as there's a severely injured firefighter there, and she was going to attend to him. But the lady's husband at the scene seems quite rude, saying, "You didn't treat my wife properly." Near the end, Song arrives and grabs the man's hand, who had raised it against Xu earlier. He stops the man right there and tells Xu to continue with her work. Now, while Xu Quine was treating the injured firefighter outside, Song was angrily reprimanding his own colleague. He tells him, "Are your hands broken? Or didn't you see that man about to hit the doctor? How can you just stand there and watch this spectacle?" Instead of answering, he had realized that this doctor is quite special to our boss. As soon as Xu Qin comes out, her eyes start searching for Song. But the firefighter present there says, "Our chief just left a little while ago. Are you looking for him?" Now, Xu Qin, running, chases after Song. Xu calls out to Song to stop. Then Song turns around. Song starts talking to Xu very normally, as if there's nothing special between them. They were just high school friends. And he makes her realize this too, that whatever he had done so far, it wasn't for her, but for his friend who needed emergency treatment. Xu Qin asks him if she can take him out for coffee to thank him, but Song's response was that there's a long line of girls waiting to buy him coffee. When his turn comes, he'll call her. Then, along with this, old memories start coming back to Song. Actually, Song used to smoke, and Xu Qin had given him a lighter with a photo of her on it, so that whenever he smokes, he'd remember her and quit smoking. And with these memories, hello everyone. So one day, Xu Qin goes to her family house with her brother Chen. Her mother seemed quite strict, and it seemed like both of them were afraid of her. Now, when Xu Qin goes to her room to freshen up, she notices that some things are missing from her room. Upon seeing this, she becomes very angry and worried, while at the same time, we are shown Song, who had come down from the fire truck, but he had also lost something, and that was the same lighter. That was very dear to him. He had been keeping it safe for 10 years. It had Xu Qin's photo on it, and over here, Xu says to her mom, "Where did my wooden sculptures go?" But her mom says to her that keep these useless hobbies aside and do something worthwhile. You became a doctor on your own will. You should have taken care of our family business. I won't tolerate these kinds of hobbies in you anymore. And then, at that moment, Xiao comes to their home, who was Xu's cousin, and he seemed quite light-hearted and of a funny nature. It seemed that Xiao was quite good friends with Xu and Chen. Today, Xiao had to have lunch at their house. Chen's mom said to Chen, "You should learn something from Xiao. You've grown up so much, but you haven't had a girlfriend." She wanted Chen to get into a relationship, but with one condition. The girl should be of the same social status. She gives envelopes to Xu and Chen and says, "Who do you like from these for a blind date? Choose for yourselves." While having a meal here, Xiao invites Xu and Chen, saying he has opened a new bar. He tells them that if they ever feel upset, they should come there. He also tells Chen that there are many beautiful girls there. Maybe he'll find someone, too. Meanwhile, our hero, poor Song Yan, was checking the trash because he was worried that his lighter might have ended up in it. But Su arrives and tells him, "Look, you haven't been able to forget it until now. That's why you're still carrying that lighter from 10 years ago." So today, Song also expresses his feelings. Song says that we grew apart because there was a significant difference in our social statuses. I don't believe I'll ever be worthy in her eyes. I worked hard for 10 years, precisely for that reason, because my goal was to be number one in everything, so that when we meet again, I can stand proudly in front of her. But perhaps bridging this social status gap is impossible for me. I can never become worthy in her eyes. Here, Su gives him advice that if you can't attain her, try to move forward by forgetting her. Meanwhile, when Chen enters the scene and goes to Xu Qin, he starts giving her advice. He suggests that she should choose one boy from among them. Actually, all of these options would be better than Song. He suspected that his sister has not been able to forget Song until today. Upon hearing this, Eksu gets angry, and Chen was upset from before. So now, both siblings arrive at Xiao's place to forget their sorrows. Whenever Xiao got a chance, he would even start flirting with Yu. But Eksu took all of this in a lighthearted manner. Today, a new girl had arrived at Xiao's bar. She accidentally drops a glass of drink. However, Chen doesn't get angry with her. Somehow, that girl seems as sweet-hearted and innocent to him as his sister Ux. Through conversations, Eksu Kin comes to know that the new bar is being inspected by the fire rescue team. So she quickly comes up with an excuse to leave. She had hoped that she might spot Song Yan here, but upon looking, she finds Officer Lee standing there. She informs her that the responsibility for the inspection doesn't fall on the firefighters, but rather on a separate department. Upon hearing this, Eksu was quite disappointed. She had hoped to find Song here. Just then, Xiao approached her. Eksu told him that she had found Song, who was now a firefighter. Xiao tried to make her understand that what happened in the past couldn't be changed, and it might not be possible for them to be together. So, he advised her to try to forget and move on. As Eksu remembered a moment from school when she was in bar with Song and saw a couple kissing together, she felt embarrassed. Song had covered her eyes at that time. Now, with this memory in mind, she couldn't resist the urge to see Song again. She quickly went to the fire rescue department and told them to inform Song that Sue had come to see him. However, as soon as Song heard her name, he revealed that he wasn't there. Here, Officer Lee also arrives, and she has seen Eksu for the second time today. In fact, Song stands aside in front of her. He wanted to show her that he is here. But I won't meet you. Sue feels quite sad seeing him like this, while Sue repeatedly tells Song to go and meet her since she came so late at night. However, Song's response is that this girl holds no importance to him, so why should he go to meet her? The next day, Song's vacation begins, and he goes to his family's house. His aunt is delighted to see him and serves him food. She tells him that Ichu Kin came here looking for him. She asks if he still has any feelings for Eksu, but Song is clear in his words. He says, "I hate her, and just looking at her face annoys me." Then, as he recalls these memories, he remembers that he once brought his girlfriend, Eksu Kin, to this house. She came from a wealthy family, and Song's family treated Eksu very well. Zhu found Song's small house charming and said, "This house is so lovely and filled with love. I could spend my whole life here." However, something happened shortly after that. Due to pressure from her mother, Eksu came to meet Song, and she treated him poorly. Zhu told him, "There's a significant difference in our social status. I had fun with you at first, but now you're boring." Song understood that Eksu's mother was in the nearby car and was forcing her to say these things. What he wanted to convey was, "Please don't bother me anymore. Let me tell you, your small house has more character than my status. So recognize the difference in our statuses and my worth." After saying this, she left, and poor Song chased her car for a while. Seeing all this, Eksu cries a lot. Now that Eksu couldn't meet Song, he comes to her house and leaves a note on the window, saying, "I'll wait for you in the park." He often waits for her, but she never shows up. Then the scene shifts, and we learn that a heavy rain and storm alert has been issued for the city. Song's vacation ended as soon as it began, and he had to return to work the next day. Meanwhile, there was an emergency at Eksu Kin's hospital, and she was heading there. Underneath a bridge, her car gets stuck and all the doors lock. Water starts to fill her car, and she feels like she's going to drown. She doesn't have a hammer in her car, so she calls 119 for rescue. In the meantime, the water is rising rapidly, and she feels like she might drown right there. But then, a glimmer of hope as some firefighters arrive to rescue her. Song shines a torchlight and realizes that it's Eksu, his first love. He struggles to get the car out of the pit and eventually breaks the car's windshield to rescue Eksu. He's relieved that she's safe and carries her out of the water. Sue had hugged him tightly along the way, but Song tells her not to get too close. Seeing Eksu's soaked clothes, Song gets her a jacket Ik-soo then asks Song if he knew it was her trapped in the car during the rescue. However, Song responds angrily, stating that he would have rescued anyone, even a dog, in the same way. He raises his voice, telling her that she shouldn't have been out during such a heavy storm. But Zoo argues that her profession is similar to his, saving lives. After this exchange, Song just gets into his boat and leaves, while Ik-soo continues on her way. Hello friends, after being rescued, Ik-soo's life had been saved. Now, Ik-soo reaches the hospital and begins the work of saving others' lives. In an emergency here, a patient arrived with a very critical condition, and he urgently needed surgery. At that time, a senior surgeon was not available. However, if the procedure wasn't done right away, the patient's life couldn't be saved, while the other doctors kept advising Ik-soo against it. Ik-soo Kim said, "In my responsibility, I will perform the surgery right now. Otherwise, this person won't survive anyway." Here, Ik-soo often has significant conflicts with her competitor, Dr. Yang. However, in the end, it's Ik-soo Kim who performs the surgery, ultimately saving the patient's life. The patient also had a young daughter who was in shock and kept recalling her father repeatedly. At that moment, Dr. Yang comforts the little girl because she was in shock and missing her father. As Dr. Ik-soo walks by them, it seems like she doesn't care, but in reality, she had observed the situation very closely, and she goes. In her room, she starts writing a report for that child, for whom she had referred to a psychiatrist for psychological therapy. Actually, she had done the best job she should have with her profession. And then, when the chief surgeon arrives there, Dr. Ik-soo gets a scolding from the chief surgeon. They tell her, "You may have done all this to save his life, but it was very risky. You can't be this emotional every time, and this time, you were very lucky." Dr. Ik-soo wanted to explain herself, but her chief surgeon left in anger. Ik-soo Kim was quite introverted, and that's why her team hadn't really become friends with her yet. They were all pleased that she had made the decision herself, and now she had received a scolding from the chief. On the other hand, Ik-soo Kim didn't care much. She was just drying Song's jacket and keeping it safe. Song was back on vacation at his home again. Then we see Meow. She had invited some of her friends over for dinner at her place. Actually, dinner was just an excuse. She only wanted to introduce her brother to new girls in the hope that someone would capture his heart. Now, she goes upstairs and starts coaxing Song, saying, "You're so handsome. My friends just want to have a meal with you once." At first, Song gets quite angry, saying, "I'm not some showpiece or a monkey you can flaunt to make others happy." But eventually, he has to agree to his sister's request. And at that moment, we are shown Song's parents, where we discover that they are not actually Song's real parents. Indeed, Song is an adopted son. His biological father passed away one day, and he started living with his adoptive parents. They harbor resentment toward his mother, feeling like she abandoned her son, as if she didn't love him at all. And then she went overseas. Even today, whenever Song's parents think about his mother, it makes them very angry. Now, they believe that Song will have to find a way to forget that girl somehow and move on. Maybe Meow's idea will work. And then we find out here. So, among Meow's friends, there's also Yizi. She is the same waitress we saw last night working part-time at Sio's bar. Her appearance resembled Ik-soo Kim's a bit, and she was similarly shy and reserved. Song had also noticed this. After dinner, Meow goes up to her brother's room and says, "I noticed that your gaze went to my best friend, Yizi 3 or 4 times. She's very sweet. If you want, she could become my sister-in-law. I would be very happy." But here, Song grabs Meow by the neck and applies a lock, making it clear that he won't release him until Meow apologizes. Meanwhile, we see Ik-soo Kim, who has gathered a lot of information about Song through Xiao. Xiao informs her that Song is currently on vacation and has gone home. Soo Kim decides to visit his house, and they meet at the doorstep. She tells him, "I came to return your jacket and also wanted to say thank you for rescuing me." Song says, "All of this doesn't make any sense. What can you give me in return for thanks? Will you marry me?" Upon hearing these words, Ik-soo's heart races. and she was about to say yes immediately. But suddenly, Song says, "Do you think that I still have you in my heart today? Many years have passed, and I've forgotten about you. There's no shortage of girls like you lined up in front of me." Song's words indicate that he has moved on from his past feelings for Eksu and isn't interested in rekindling their relationship. Here, Eksu-kin becomes very sad, but she still gathers the courage to ask Song if they can rekindle their relationship and become the way they used to be. However, Song firmly rejects her, stating that he has moved on and forgotten her over the years. Afterward, we see that when Song is at work, he shares with Soo that he always wants his fire station to be number one, and he never wants to be second. In his eyes, coming in second place is equivalent to failure, and that's why he is so strict with all his trainees, because he seeks perfection in everything. I had seen Song undergo a lot of hardships. Perhaps that's why he has become very tough and strict. A few days later, when Dr. Eksu was at work, she found out that there was a seminar at 2:00. It was a 2-hour seminar, and someone new from her team had to attend it. But everyone wanted to avoid it. However, Eksu-kin hears that it's related to fire rescue, so Eksu immediately thinks, "What if Song is here?" She immediately goes to attend the lecture, and Officer Lee was there to give the lecture. She delivers a 2-hour lecture on fire rescue, while at the same time, Song was undergoing training, and his colleagues were teasing him. They say, "We find that doctor very dear to us. She's so beautiful. Whenever we have any minor injuries, we'll go to her for treatment." Song understood that they were teasing him. He tells them, "I'll injure you right now so you can go there." He's quite angry with the way they kept teasing him. Meanwhile, when Officer Lai's presentation ends, a photo of her department is shown, where Officer Song was standing with her. Upon seeing this, some of the nursing staff pause and start saying, "I think he's your boyfriend. You both look very good together." Then Dr. Eksu also approaches Officer Lee and starts asking about Song. Here, she finds out that Song is one of the best officers in the fire rescue department. Eksu starts feeling jealous and suspicious of any potential relationship between Officer Lee and Song. One day, while Dr. Eksu was on duty and her team was about to go home, they receive an emergency call. They find out that a major accident has occurred on the highway, and they need both an ambulance and a lot of medical staff at the accident scene. Shu King quickly gets her team ready and rushes to the location. Here, we see that 3 or 4 cars had collided, along with some motorcyclists involved. When Eksu-kin arrives at the scene, she notices Song right there. Here, they come face to face again. Both of them focus on their respective tasks. On one side, Song excels in his work, while on the other side, Dr. Eksu is doing her best to save lives. A car had fallen into the water below the highway, making the rescue operation extremely challenging because it was firmly stuck. The driver was also trapped inside. Initially, they try to lift the car, and then they have to cut through the car's roof to rescue the person inside. Now, the patient was in a lot of pain and needed a doctor. Dr. Eksu arrives at the scene and starts administering a drip to the patient. As they attempt to lift the patient, Eksu is about to collide with a sharp part of the car, but Song arrives just in time and gets injured while saving her. Seeing this, Eksu's heart melts. When their mission is complete, Eksu follows Song and tells him that he needs to go to the hospital with her. However, Song doesn't agree. At that moment, Officer Suo appears and scolds Song, sending him with the ambulance for a checkup. When Song arrives at the hospital, Dr. Eksu instructs him to remove his shirt for treatment. However, Song insists, "I want to change the doctor." Then, Eksu says, "Everyone is busy. You have no choice, just like I didn't have a choice the day you rescued me from the car." Hearing this, Song falls silent and removes his shirt. Song was in considerable pain, but he still gets his stitches without anesthesia. Now, Eksu-kin applies a bandage to Song and says, "You'll have to come regularly to get your bandage changed." Actually, this meeting was just an excuse. Song understands this too. That's why he starts asking Zhu directly, Why are you doing this after all? Why do you want to meet me again? Why do you want to revive our relationship? Is it so you can have fun and then leave me again when you get bored? Song was speaking to her with a lot of anger. In response, Ik-soo-kin tells him, "You're acting as if you've forgotten me all these years, but you haven't at all. It's clear to me that you repeatedly helped me, saved my life. I can see that I'm not just a victim to you." For a little while now, the song goes silent. And then he says, "It's only because of this, because you're a bit different from other cases, because I used to love you once." These words pierce Ik-Quin's heart like an arrow. And so when Dr. Ik-soo-kin and Song are standing together, Officer Lee arrives at that moment. She was very concerned about Song. She even helped Song put on his shirt because he was injured. However, Song still refuses her assistance, especially if he were alone with Lee. However, Song wanted to show Ik-joo that he had moved on. Actually, Officer Lee secretly liked Song a lot, and she was worried when Song's shoes got wet. So, Lee goes to get slippers for Song. At that moment, Dr. Ik-soo asks Song, "Is she your girlfriend? If you've truly moved on, do you have someone else in your life? If you really have a girlfriend, you could have told me directly." But Song's response was that whatever happened between him and Ik-soo was between them and no one else. Soo-kin says, "What was my age at that time when I left you? I was dependent on my parents and I couldn't rebel against them." And here, in anger, Song says, "You dumped me as if someone would discard a dog. You could have at least explained. You didn't even turn back once." And then, in the end, he concludes on this note, "I was young at that time. I could endure the pain. But if something like this happens to me again, I won't be able to bear it. I'll die. Whoever can leave someone once can leave them again. A new excuse can always come up. That's why I want to tell you, I don't hate you, but I don't want any relationship with you." Now, as Song comes out of the room, Officer Lee had brought his shoes, but Song doesn't even talk to her properly. Lee understood that she is Song's ex-girlfriend. Officer Lee says to Song, "If you don't want to give her a chance, can you at least consider giving me a chance? Give me a chance to prove myself." But Song's response was clear. "No, not you either. I don't want to have any relationship with anyone." However, Lee had a sense that even today, if someone resided in the heart of the song, it had to be Dr. Ik-soo-kin. A little while later, Ik-soo-kin received a blood report, which belonged to the driver involved in the car accident. He had a rare disease, and the virus could potentially be transmitted through his blood. Ik-soo-kin immediately became worried and instructed the disinfection of all instruments. She insisted on having everyone who had been in close contact with the patient undergo a checkup. Following this, Ik-soo-kin promptly summoned the firefighters, including Song and his team's 4 members. Those who had close contact with the patient's blood will also need to undergo blood tests. However, the patient's mother starts getting angry with Soo-kin, saying, "Why have you kept my son in the IQ? Put him in a separate room." Even she was aware of this disease that had caused her son's illness. Ik-soo-kin becomes very angry at this point and says, "Your son's life is important because he's wealthy, but the staff working here, the firefighters, their lives have no importance." Here we learn that army and police personnel are often respected, but firefighters don't receive the same level of respect. Here, Ik-soo-kin makes the patient's mother realize that when her son was dying, struggling, these were the same boys who saved his life and pulled him out of the water. Now, as these boys were getting their tests done, Ik-soo-kin arrives and says, "One of the boys has a shortage of medicine. I suggest you get the antivirus right now because you were injured at that time too. So your chances of getting infected are higher." Actually, it was a rare disease, so the medicine was quite scarce. But here, Song makes a decision. He's the chief, so he refuses to take the medicine. Instead, he gives it to his team members. Now, Song gives all 3 medicines to those 3 boys and thinks to himself that if he were to lose his life in this uniform, he wouldn't care. He would always be proud, and he would hold his head high. Just then, Ik-soo-kin arrives and had witnessed that Song didn't take the medicine himself. Instead, he gave it to his staff. Now, Yoo starts to worry about him a lot. She tells Song that today he will stay in the hospital, and after that, Ik-soo contacts various sources until she eventually manages to obtain the medicine. Now, she rushes to Song with the dose, because the sooner he takes it, the safer he'll be. Zoo tells Song only this much. I'm doing everything because this is my profession. She also adds that if he doesn't want any relationship with her, she respects his decision. Now, when Song returns, Sue tries to talk to him. Suo signals to him that he's thinking about transferring to another job. It was actually for personal reasons, because he hadn't been able to give his family the time they deserve, and he couldn't get married due to his busy schedule. Song wanted to stop him, but he couldn't express it directly. So Sue tells Song, that's your problem. You don't say what's on your mind. It seems like the situation was quite similar in Exu Kin's case as well. After that, they both go inside and start eavesdropping on their trainees' conversations outside their rooms. These trainees were quite fed up. Some of them were annoyed by Song's strictness, while others were exhausted from rigorous training. But they had no idea that their bosses were standing outside, listening to all of this. Well, the next blood test report comes in, and it turns out that they are all safe. They will have another test in 4 weeks. While over there, Song notices something in his room. Seeing this, Song becomes very angry and says, "You know that our station is falling behind right now. These trainees are all new, and they need us. If you leave, how am I supposed to handle all of this on my own?" They had made a promise to stay together to elevate their station. However, Sue responds, "I'm tired. It's been 5 years, and the salary here isn't that great. That's why I want to arrange a transfer." Now, all of this comes as a shock to Song, and he reacts strongly, telling Sue, "Fine, if you want to leave, go ahead. You don't need to care about this place. You're only doing all of this for money." Meanwhile, Dr. Sue Kin and her staff, after working hard all day, start thinking about going on an outing. But suddenly, they receive an emergency call. There was a patient whose heart had stopped beating. They rush to the scene and begin key PR, but the patient is not responding. They have to resort to using electric shocks to revive the patient. And eventually, after a lot of hard work, the patient's breathing is finally restored. They had pulled the patient back from the brink of death, and this moment was even more joyful than the outing they had planned. However, the next day, when Song was training his new recruits, he noticed that these boys were not taking their training seriously at all. Moreover, Song was still very angry because of Sue. So, he becomes even more aggressive than his daily routine. Firefighter training was tough and demanding, and one of the new recruits made several mistakes due to their childish behavior. This prompts Song to yell at them loudly and sternly. Sue tries to intervene to calm Song down, but Song isn't listening to anyone at the moment. He goes inside. All the boys present there had noticed that Song had never behaved this way with Sue before. Something significant must have happened to cause this argument between them. Meanwhile, the family of the patient saved by Dr. Exu Kin and her team were expressing heartfelt thanks. Dr. Yang also noticed something important. Initially, she might have thought that Exu Kin had gotten this position through connections, but her skills as a capable doctor were undeniable. There was no doubt about her abilities. The next day, Suo sits down with Song again to share a meal and tries to make amends. However, Song gets up and leaves, which causes all the boys to start gossiping. They had never seen Sue and Song argue like this before. They used to be an ideal friends. The 3 boys who were taking the medicine say that they are experiencing a lot of weakness due to the medicine side effects. They say the strongest and most physically fit among us is definitely Mr. Song, as he appeared very strong without any side effects. saying you have to keep the shareholders happy. Actually, her mom had quite conservative ideas that didn't match well with police station. Song starts to head towards the foreign land to rescue her, but Ex-Yukin arrives and Zhu tries to make Miao understand, saying, "Look, your future is bright. If you complete this degree, you could get a very good job. But if you get caught up in these small problems, you might get expelled from the university. You tell me, are you smart or dumb? You're causing more trouble for your brother than I am." Exu says some things like this, which somehow start to make sense to Miao. Now, Miao finally gives in and immediately provides the police with the supplier's number. However, when the police try to trace that number, it turns out it's no longer active. It appears that the supplier was actually a scammer. Poor Miao was just working a part-time job, and she didn't even know that these items were fake. However, when the police realized she had sold so many of them, her fine became incredibly high, 5 times the value. When she fills out a form for such a large fine, they will release Miao immediately. Hearing this, Song is also left astonished and extremely worried. He didn't know where he would suddenly get so much money from. Song even makes a few calls to some people, but it doesn't work out. Then, in a short while, they realize that this matter has escalated significantly. These were smuggled items from customs, and until the real supply look at her and meet her again. Now, Meow tells Song, "All right, if you really like her, I'll try to talk to her more politely next time." On the other hand, Xiao is also trying to explain to Xu, "Why do you have so much love for that guy? It's a high school thing. Can't you forget it? Why can't you move on?" Xiao is advising her that if he also has feelings for her, then that's fine. Otherwise, all of this is pointless. Meow is giving similar advice to her brother, telling him to date Xu once. It's possible that you two won't get along, and after that, you can successfully forget each other and move on. This advice sounds very strange to Song, but it's actually quite sensible. They show us that the rest is about the girl he had gone inside to save. She did survive, but she was severely burned. She had been quiets her by saying, "All right, I will make a decision and let you know."